All right, let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar, Emerging Stronger with IoT in Homes and Buildings. My name is Elizabeth, and I'm a Senior Product Marketing Manager at Twilio, focusing on IoT. As your host, it is my greatest pleasure to present this webinar with co-founder and Chief Product Officer of SmartRent, Mitch Karren. Mitch and his team are helping the rental market digitally transform their operations and resident experiences through the Internet of Things. Prior to SmartRent, Mitch worked for a large real estate company where he built a variety of software applications. He directed the first enterprise-scale smart home deployment in the rental space, comprising of 25,000 homes. He also leverages his previous experience working in both real estate development and property management. Welcome, Mitch, and thank you for joining us today.
Hi, everyone, and thank you very much, Michelle. Excited to be and ready to share some strategies on how we leverage IoT to help our customers continue to manage their rental properties during this pandemic.
Awesome. Yes, so before we get started, I want to review two quick housekeeping items. First, we'll have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. You can submit your questions anytime during the webinar by using the chat function at the bottom of your screen. And second, if you want to watch this webinar again or share it with your colleagues, you'll receive an email from Twilio within the next few days. All right, I want to take a moment to display our legal disclaimer. This will remain with the recording as well, should you ever need to reference it. Now, on to our webinar. I am so excited to share today's lineup. First, I'll kick it off with a review of key trends that we're seeing in the smart home and smart building space as it relates to impacts of the pandemic. Then I'll pass it off to Mitch to give insights into how his prop tech company is helping the market in today's COVID world. Lastly, I'll have a fireside chat with Mitch to review some of the takeaways from this entire webinar project. And of course, we'll open it up for Q&A for everyone else tuning in. All right, now let's get started. One place where we're seeing the impact of IoT in this new COVID reality has been in the real estate and rental market. So in preparation for this webinar, we interviewed a number of partners and leveraged secondary research to understand more about what's happening in the smart home and smart building space. So let me walk you through what we discovered. Despite the impacts of COVID-19, more than 43 million rental units were leased in the past 12 months in the US alone. On the commercial side, a survey of commercial tenants reported that 44% of respondents were ready to commit to a lease of an office space. And 11% of them said they would postpone their office search until after the pandemic ends, which I thought was a pretty surprising low number. All of these people who are actively looking at properties are risking potential exposure to the virus every single time they meet with a property manager. Thankfully, innovators like our speaker for today are leveraging the benefits of cellular IoT to solve this problem. Nearly overnight, the rental community has moved from a high-touch model of face-to-face communications to a no-touch paradigm. As the industry changes to meet this new reality, there are two main questions in everyone's mind. First, how can we deliver rich property viewing experience and maintain pandemic safety procedures? And two, after the rental decision has been made, how do property managers and occupants interact? What has emerged are several new trends that have an impact on both residents and property managers right now in this COVID world and into the future. Perhaps the biggest disruption of the industry is the long-standing tradition of live in-person tours. The demand for rental units did not change overnight, but the parameters did. The contactless access trend was already afoot, and COVID accelerated it at lightning speed. Of course, prospective occupants are safer when they tour a property by themselves, but now they have greater flexibility too. 20% of showings happen outside of office hours for prospective residents. In another survey, 16% of residents across the country said they'd actually prefer to tour an apartment by themselves. By combining contactless access and self-showing, property managers can fully customize the prospect's tour experience giving them detailed information regarding the property's amenity offerings despite the limitations of COVID-19. Another trend we found was around delightful experiences. Property managers are turning to technology to personalize and enhance the experience for occupants. When it comes to technology that helps create these delightful experiences, 92% of property managers plan to maintain or increase spending on investments over the next 18 months. Take, for example, just the onboarding process. By digitizing how we move into spaces, property managers can streamline every aspect of that experience. With pre-configured smart devices that are ready to use when residents and tenants move in, property managers are increasing their efficiency as well as safety for all parties. Plus, remote access capabilities put convenience in the hands of residents and tenants, enabling them to create temporary credentials for guests, customers, coworkers, and even dog walkers, of course, depending on the type of property. Now, this trend for delightful digital experience was already underway, but the pandemic made it necessary. Let's look at another aspect of property management in a COVID world. The reality is you'll still have the AC go out, washing machines will still leak, and doors will still jam. These are just a few examples, but how do property managers keep their residents and tenants safe when maintenance issues arise during a pandemic? Of course, we have an IoT-enabled solution for that. For example, smart hardware can detect leaks and other problems in both occupied and vacant units. As a result, property managers can identify and correct problems before they become more costly. A recent study indicated that stopping huge repairs, such as major leaks, before they affected the floors below results in a savings of $50,000 per year for every 250 units. The key here is that smart technologies were already being implemented with the goal of reducing cost. Now, the opportunity to reduce COVID exposure has accelerated that adoption. So what does this all add up to? It's long been stated that more and more consumers want delightful digital experiences with the brands they love. But this has been incredibly accelerated by COVID-19. And so has the necessity for property managers to embrace this technology. What's clear here is that businesses are now forced to combine the best of physical and digital worlds. In fact, 62% of business leaders from consumer-facing industries agreed with digitizing the physical world to better serve their customers during this pandemic. And they felt that it would improve their companies for the long term. Let's take a deeper look at how businesses are making this transition. Mitch, can you tell us a little bit more about how SmartRent is helping property managers emerge stronger from this pandemic?
Yes, of course, in short, and thank you again, Al. I just want to quickly emphasize before we jump in how important some of these metrics that Al had shared. They really tell a strong story of how the real estate industry in general is rapidly adopting new technology to satisfy their customers. We at SmartRent, we're really laser focused right now on helping our customers get the products they need quickly and help them adopt the technologies to serve their customers. Our core business is building enterprise software, but we also actually manufacture a bunch of embedded hardware and offer an array of white glove installation services for all of our general clients. We help property managers across a variety of verticals, such as multifamily and single family rentals, implement the Internet of Things to operate their properties more efficiently, protect their assets, and offer a must-have amenity to their residents. So, we started SmartRent about 4 years ago on a pretty simple mission to bring the Internet of Things to the multifamily industry. Back then, there was a lot of great products from smart locks and thermostats, but few, if anything, really existed at an enterprise scale for property management use. Since inception, we've experienced pretty tremendous growth. We've been moving at lightning speed, and we went from a few people to over 200 employees on multiple continents in just a few short years. Our product suite consists of a dozen web and mobile software applications, embedded hardware, and gateways, and we build everything in-house. We virtually also run the entire supply chain from sourcing products, warehousing, distribution, and even end installation. Quick milestone, I just gotta give a shout out to our company. We've surpassed 100,000 smart home installations. This happened during COVID. we weren't allowed to actually celebrate in our office. So I try to take as many opportunities as I can to thank all of our teams for getting us to this point. We did not imagine we would be here by now, but we really appreciate all your help getting us there. Obviously, I'll be sharing some other milestones for our clients that they've been able to reach with us behind them. And then lastly, the 700,000 IoT devices, we should be surpassing 1 million by the end of the year. This ranges from smart locks, lighting controls, thermostats, sensors, as well as access control systems. And equally as important, we directly integrate to their property management system. So we really act as that bridge, the orchestration enterprise layer between the wide world of IoT devices and the property management day-to-day operations. This provides really vital automated workflows and enables the communities to offer a variety of contactless property operations. So this is a quick little video kind of highlighting the major functionality we're focused on right now to help with the pandemic for the contactless property operations. It should kind of come as no surprise that top of the list is self-guided tours. We're going to take a deep dive into self-guided tours a little bit later, but just want to show you guys really the visual how it actually works day to day at a property. As you guys know, millions of people are still moving, so they still need to be able to operate their properties to some certain extent. A soon runner-up after that is touchless access control. The minimization of what people touch from visitors to residents and staff throughout the community is vital to the success and the health of a building. Next up, asset protection. There's a variety of great sensors out there that can detect issues before they become catastrophes and keep the buildings operational and healthy. Obviously, we have a resident amenity benefit. Residents are demanding this technology now. It's a no-brainer. So you get the best of both worlds from residents, staff, and guests utilizing all of this. And kind of last up is the ability to handle a contactless move in and move out. Because we're digitally granting keys to people, we're allowed to move them into their property or let our clients move them into their property without actually having to hand over physical keys. This makes everybody more efficient and removes that human contact and makes everybody happy in the end. Hopefully enjoyed that video. So before we jump into how the actual self-guided tour works, I kind of want to give a quick little history. We can then define how self-guided tours work, and I'll show you a quick video following this as well. The first tour actually dated back to about 15 years ago, where there's actually a physical key handoff exchange. Somebody actually physically handed off a key in exchange for something like an ID. The person went on the tour and handed it back. A lot of obviously physical interaction and touching stuff. Lock boxes soon hit the scene near the turn of the decade, but that still didn't mean full touchless, full contactless. We actually, as my last company, we actually implemented in 2014 the first self-guided tour platform leveraging smart locks. So this is a totally digital and totally contactless first to market solution. However, it was strictly for single family rental homes. At the time, that was actually a must have in that space, but the multifamily industry wasn't really adopting it then. A lot of companies were tinkering around, testing out stuff, piloting, but no one was really mass adopting it. A few years ago, there was actually a few vendors, actually such as ourselves at SmartRent, who launched a specific product, I should say, for multifamily for self-guided tours, but it was still viewed as a nice to have functionality. Fast forward to about 4, 5, 6 months ago, and when the pandemic hit, it closed leasing offices, and this functionality of a self-guided tour went from a nice to have to a must have virtually overnight. So I'm going to run through a quick little video of how the tour works. This is from the prospect perspective. They can go through and schedule a tour. We have a bunch of actual configurations that let them have cleaning buffers and adhere to social distancing guidelines. They go through a qualification, uploading their phone number, getting text messages, and then they go through an ID and selfie check. So we have them upload their ID front and back. We then ask them to take a selfie of themselves. So we do all of this qualification and verification remotely. They can do it from anywhere they want, sitting on their existing couch as they're about to look for their new home. Then we let our customers customize the entire tour experience from messaging, theming, colors, photos. We even help with and embed interactive maps so the prospect can really navigate and route themselves to the property without actually having to have any help from a property manager or a leasing agent. And of course, arguably the most important piece at the end is the ability to seamlessly integrate access control into the experience by providing the prospect a variety of digital credentials. So what does the actual tech look like in the unit? We'll take a quick little deep dive in. So we set up normally, in most cases, a Z-Wave network. If you're not familiar with Z-Wave, it's one of the most popular smart home protocols. And we connect all the Z-Wave devices, whether it's a lock, a thermostat, lighting controls, and sensors, back to our hub. And our hub is backed by Twilio's cellular network. So our hub actually has an embedded cellular chip inside, and that can connect to the internet. This provides a whole host of awesome, amazing things, from real-time alerting to easy setup. So diving in a little bit even deeper on the tech side, you can see here right front and center, this is Twilio's Super SIM. We've now embedded this directly into our various smart home gateways. The gateway on the left is actually our brand new touchscreen interface that acts as a gateway to control all the devices, and you can also leverage it to control the devices via the touchscreen interface. And the gateway on the right is the one that we've been deploying for a number of years. That's in the existing 100 or so thousand homes. So really, the Twilio Super SIM has really enabled us to get systems up and running really, really quickly, a much more frictionless process than a lot of other systems out there. So why cellular? This is a great question. There's a lot of high-speed internet access out there. There's a lot of smart devices that are just Wi-Fi only. The reason why cellular, at least in our world, is so important is because there's 20+ million apartments out there that don't have, and I should say the vast majority of those do not have an existing high-speed internet connection that spreads throughout the entire property, especially in the vacant or model units that may be spread all throughout the garden-style property. So as you can see from the diagram here, we leverage the Twilio's Super SIM functionality to connect the homes and the apartment buildings, whether it's a vacant unit or a gate or a gym door, all back to the cellular network. This provides, again, a whole slew of issues, a whole slew of benefits, from quickly getting the system up and running to expanding the reach beyond where we normally would be able to. Because as I mentioned, most communities don't have this internet connection locally. And in order to get these systems up and running, especially in a COVID time where people want answers yesterday, they don't want to wait a month to do something. So we provided a solution where people can get up and running in no time. So some COVID-related wins. I mentioned earlier, we had our own milestone of the 100,000 units online. These are some of the other milestones that our customers have been able to take major benefit from. In a few short 4 or 5 months, we've been able to conduct over 100,000 contactless self-guided tours. The conversion ratios on these tours is amazing. Our clients are ecstatic about this. So we're really happy that we've been able to supply that for our clients. We've also been able to run a little over 4 million touchless unlock events. That's 4 million people not having to touch some piece of hardware out there that may have spread something. We've also conducted a little over 1 million contactless move-ins and move-outs. Like I said before, this creates efficiency as well as removes additional human interaction. And arguably the most important stat, within the last 3 months, we've completely changed our processes, which I'll dive into a little bit later. We've completely changed our processes to enable over 1,000 new communities to be able to reopen and offer this self-guided tour as part of their existing leasing experience. So that's probably the most important stat, and our clients are happy, and we're just ecstatic that we've been able to offer this.
All right. Thank you so much, Mitch. Those milestones are truly impressive. So I want to pause for a minute and reflect back on when we were preparing all of this content for this webinar. You and I have had many chats over the last several weeks. And one of the times that we were chatting and we were talking about these incredible achievements and how they happened so quickly. So I think some of those insights would be very valuable to our viewers. So I'd love to dig into some of those in a fireside chat style. So the first thing I remember you saying was that you had to hyper focus your business on contactless property operations, such as self-guided tours and touchless access, practically overnight. Can you share some of those challenges that SmartRent faced during that time and how you overcame them?
Yeah, absolutely. Nearly every aspect of our business changed to a degree. We shifted our roadmap dramatically. We shifted our entire sales strategy, and most importantly, we changed our development process. As I mentioned earlier, while we do build enterprise software, ensuring the hardware itself that's installed properly is vital, which is why we have a very robust field operations division. We do everything from conducting site surveys, training property staff, and actually supervise the entire installation in person. At one point in March, in early March, I should say, before the pandemic hit, we were actually retrofitting upwards of about 1,000 apartment units a day, which obviously came to a complete halt when the pandemic hit. So if you think, unlike offices and retail that were completely shut down, apartment buildings still had to operate to a certain extent. So prior to the pandemic hitting, like I mentioned earlier, self-guided tours and contactless access were nice to have functions, but by no means required to operate a property. By the beginning of April, nearly all of our existing clients and prospects in our sales funnel shifted their desires and focus to these now must-have functions. We answered this by completely changing up our entire procurement process to pre-provision device kits directly at our warehouse so our clients can install and activate themselves with very little friction. We immediately started hosting daily live webinars as well as private remote training sessions if desired to ensure everything is working properly. So we really went from this very, very high touch in person to DIY based on our customers' needs. Our customer now can place an order for a self-guided tour kit and be up and running live within about 24 to 48 hours. And again, like as I mentioned, with the milestone, we've had over 100 new clients benefit from this, and now prospects are able to tour over 1,000 new communities across the country.
Yeah, that's incredible. I'm sure that was quite the scramble to completely change that process, especially the installation piece. And I think that that's one area that will definitely stick around post-COVID, as a lot of people like that DIY aspect. So now I want to take a minute to dig a little deeper into the technology itself. Again, back before this webinar, as we were chatting, you and I talked about Twilio's role in your response to COVID and how you can how you leverage some of what Twilio had to offer in order to make that happen so quickly. So can you share a little bit about that with our viewers? Tell us how SuperSim works with SmartRent and why that matters for making fast business decisions.
Yeah, as I kind of ended the last answer, I really can't emphasize enough for this, at least right now, for this DIY frictionless solution. And without Twilio's cellular technology, we wouldn't really have been able to do what we've done over the last couple of months. It really wouldn't have been possible, to be honest with you. Now a property manager can power on our hub, and within a minute, it's connected to our servers, talking to other devices in the apartment unit, and controllable through our software. I mean, from a setup process, this is like a dream to a property manager. It dramatically increases our customers' capacity to scale across their large portfolios in a very short period of time. I mean, think about trying to train hundreds of property managers and maintenance technicians on a matter of weeks on installs and new software. It's not an easy feat by any means. So the simpler the activation of the system, the faster our customers can return to some level of normalcy. Another huge benefit, and this is particularly related to the SuperSim itself, is the fact that it can expand our reach now. We started using these chips earlier this year in both our smart home gateways and our access control bridges, and it has really been a game changer. So if you think about most apartment communities, I kind of reviewed this earlier, that they don't have a managed internet solution that covers the entire property, whether it's a vacant unit or perimeter gates and other amenity spaces. So having cellular in these instances is an absolute must. Excuse me. With the SuperSIM technology, again, because the existing networks didn't provide full coverage, we've not only been able to expand into new areas within the property, such as a remote vacant unit or a gate here or there, but it's also been able to expand into entirely new geographic regions. Reaching this milestone of the enableization of 1,000 communities in a few short months really wouldn't have been possible without Twilio's technology and help.
Yeah, 1,000 communities. I've heard this stat several times now, and it still gets me excited for you guys. And I'm sure it does for you and your team as well. Okay, so the last area that I want to bring up from our pre-webinar discussions was around exploring new technologies. So it's obvious that COVID has accelerated digital transformation. And for the smart building space in particular, we've talked about touchless access and contactless access. And you mentioned a few other very future sounding use cases for IoT as it relates to buildings. So what are some of those IoT solutions that are worth exploring now that adoption is rising for all these digital solutions? Can you share a little bit about that with our viewers?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, while there's an obvious focus in the immediate on the access control solutions, we really don't want to discount all the other hundreds of thousands of devices that are helping buildings stay healthy, at least the 100,000 in our world. So another major initiative that we are constantly working on is leveraging thermostats, sensors, lighting controls, HVAC units to create healthier indoor environments. As you can imagine, residents living in an apartment building can really only control the cleanliness and the overall healthiness of their own dwelling unit. And they really rely on the property management staff to ensure the hallways, amenity spaces, and common areas are clean. Even within the own residence space, they're still relying on various building equipment to be operational at all times. And then you couple that with some of the recent local stay-at-home orders, and it only emphasizes the need for healthier indoor environments. So controlling and monitoring air quality, airflow, temperature, and lighting conditions are all highly desirable elements of this new healthy concept, and soon and quickly becoming a must-have in a post-COVID world. Sensors that detect a variety of issues such as water and gas leaks, CO2, radon, dust, smog, and other harmful chemicals are very vital components. They can alert staff when issues arise and even prevent catastrophes. In addition to this real-time monitoring system, we also offer a series of automations, rules, and schedules that help maintain and create a healthy and comfortable environment in the building. And we are always exploring new ways to leverage IoT to improve the quality of life for our customers at the properties. There are actually a few incredibly agile manufacturers out there who have already launched devices that apparently suck in large swaths of air and can detect if it contains coronavirus particles. These are all still new technologies. We haven't actually got our hands on any of them yet, but we are exploring them. But it just goes to show where the real estate industry is heading towards in this concept of healthy environments. So in an ideal future world, and hopefully this is not too distant in the near future, these technologies can alert property staff of a hazardous area, automatically prevent future access, and even eradicate the issue through a combination of UV lighting, air filtration, and ventilation.
Yeah, fantastic. And I've actually seen a lot of these trends toward that innovation as well, this healthy spaces concept. Very excited to see what SmartRent comes up in that area. Okay, so with that, I want to turn it to our viewers and answer any questions that you have for Mitch. So again, you can use the chat space at the bottom of your screen, and I will take a look at those now. I know we had a couple that have come in already, so I'm going to take a look at these now. Okay, so Mitch, here's one from Robert. What wireless platforms other than Z-Wave were considered, and what are the pluses and minuses?
Yeah, it's a great question. Z-Wave does provide a ton of benefits, but we also leverage some other low frequency networks. We use LoRa, which is a long range technology in some cases for a bunch of sensors. But we also use Bluetooth in a lot of cases as well, where there may not be an internet connection. So we do use sometimes Bluetooth where a phone can interact directly with the devices.
Yep, great. Here's another one. So could you please elaborate on how you used Twilio SuperSIM? How exactly did you monitor each device? I know you've talked a lot about SuperSIM already, so don't feel like you need to iterate again on how you used it, but maybe can you speak to that second part of that question? How exactly did you monitor each device?
Yeah, I mean, we've built a lot of monitoring systems in-house to make sure the runtime is as high as possible. Now we can't always control if somebody unplugs a device, or actually in some cases the residents like the device and they actually walk out with it sometimes. But we've created a ton of not only monitoring devices, but anomaly detection to make sure that everything is near 100% runtime. And a lot of this stuff, like I said, is actually built in-house with our engineering staff.
Yeah, definitely. Here's a question about SuperSIM. So I'll take this one. And then Mitch, if you want to chime in, feel free. So what is SuperSIM? SuperSIM is a cellular connectivity platform for the Internet of Things. It allows builders of IoT to have complete control and choice over their connectivity. You can choose from hundreds of tier 1 global networks and control the quality of your connectivity for your IoT solution. So it ensures a much higher success rate of your IoT solution. Obviously also comes with a connectivity console to control your connectivity, as well as a number of APIs. Definitely feel free to reach out to me after the webinar. My door is always open to talk more about this. Okay. Another question for you, Mitch. Sorry, I'm like scrolling back and forth because I think we only have time for one more question. And this one is around, okay. What property management software do you integrate with, if any, and do you integrate with VTS? Are you familiar with that, Mitch?
I'm not sure what VTS stands for, but I can tell you the systems that we currently integrate with. Today we integrate with Yardi, RealPage, Entrata, and Resman, which are four of the largest in the multifamily space. We've also integrated with a few Active Directory single sign-on systems, as well as build a few actual custom integrations to our large clients' property management systems. Most of those integrations run in near real time. So, that's really an important and vital functionality that a vendor, when you're choosing out there, if the question is related to who you're choosing, you got to make sure that your vendor does have those integrations, because it's going to save you a ton of time and really remove the duplicate data entry, data errors, and automate a lot of the workflows that you normally would have to do manually. And you don't want to have manual workflows being done when you're granting and removing access to important devices like a smart lock, for instance.
Yep. Very helpful. All right, so we are a little now over time. So that's all the time that we have for today. Thank you everyone for some really great questions. If we did not get to your question, then we will try to follow up with you individually to make sure to get your question answered. Again, a recording of this webinar will be emailed to you within the next few days. Mitch, thank you so much. This conversation has been amazing. I know you and your team put a lot of time and effort into helping us pull this together.
Yeah, and again, thank you all. I really enjoyed being able to share some thoughts. And to the viewers out there, thank you for joining as well. I hope you guys learned something today and just overall enjoy the chat.
Fantastic. All right, everyone. This concludes our webinar for today.